Welcome back, everybody. We've been hearing from problem solvers trying to address the frontline issues of an open southern border. Now we're going to hear from a man running in a state that is overwhelmed by illegal migrants coming across that border. Joining us right now, the Republican nominee for U.S. Senate in the great state of Arizona, Blake Masters. Blake, great to have you on the show.
Great to see you, John. Thank you.
I want to start with the extraordinary images of watching all of Martha's Vineyard in the last few weeks melt down over a mere 50 illegal migrants dropped at their door. You've got 50,000 to 100,000 coming into Arizona every couple of weeks. What effect does it have when you see liberals suddenly melt in the face of just a few illegal migrants?
Well, this is just so characteristic of the modern Democratic Party, of the modern progressives who are in charge, right? They have these horrible policies, but usually they don't bear the costs of them. They expect the rest of America to pay the price and to deal with the fallout. And so it's just astonishing. You know, DeSantis sends 50 migrants to Martha's Vineyard, and they declare a humanitarian crisis. Never mind this humanitarian crisis we've had here on the border in Arizona for years now. All of a sudden, 50 show up in Martha's Vineyard, and it's a complete disaster. John, I think they mobilized the National Guard.
They did.
The Martha's Vineyard, wealthy, moneyed Democratic elite, they couldn't even bear to have these illegal aliens sharing their island for 24 hours. And they mobilized the National Guard and deported them immediately. So, of course, it's just more champagne socialism, left-wing hypocrisy. We're used to that. But I'm grateful as a candidate here in Arizona because now the media is finally talking about the border crisis. And they finally get to see what people in Arizona have been dealing with every single day for a long time, especially under Joe Biden and his failed presidency.
Well, speaking of that media, a few short weeks ago, they were riding off your campaign. Now you are neck and neck. You're moving up in the polls quickly. You've had a relentless focus on pinning down your opponent, Senator Mark Kelly, on the border, on all the issues that are Joe Biden. He's really struggling to embrace or even define what his president stands for, isn't he?
Well, that's right. And Biden is incredibly unpopular in Arizona. He's incredibly unpopular most everywhere in the country. Mark Kelly, he's in this awkward spot because he promised Arizonans he would be independent. But once in D.C., he's just voted in lockstep almost 100% of the time for Biden's agenda. So he's Biden's sidekick, really. He's Biden's most loyal foot soldier in the United States Senate. All of a sudden, it comes time to run for re-election. Biden's not popular. And Mark Kelly, he's got to do that awkward thing where he contorts himself to try to put some distance between him and Biden. No, most Arizonans, they don't like Biden. They don't like the open border, the double-digit inflation, all the problems Biden's caused. And when they learn that Mark Kelly just surrendered his independence and is voting for all these crazy Biden policies, they want to make a change. So I got to get that message out. As we've got that message out, the race has tightened. And I think in November, Arizonans are going to send Mark Kelly home and get someone in there who's actually going to be independent and check Joe Biden.
He had this awkward moment where he was asked, why don't you hold out more and do like what Senator Kristen Sinema does and get more for Arizona? And he said something to the effect of, I don't like conflict. I'm a get along, go along sort of guy. That had to create an incredible moment in Arizona politics, didn't it?
And he caught himself. He said, well, now look, hey, I'm not in the business of holding up And then he caught himself because he was telling the truth. And he was like, uh-oh, that's an uncomfortable truth. He's not in the business of holding up the Democratic agenda. He's in the business of rubber stamping it. And then he pivoted to some mindless, safe consultant drivel. But he's shown us who he is. He's not the independent that he promised he was in 2020. Now we have a 2-year track record. And again, if people like Joe Biden, if they think that the open border and the double-digit inflation and the rising crime, if people like that, they have a candidate. They can vote to reelect Mark Kelly. But if they want to make a change, if they want safe streets, if they want an actual secure border, if they want 2% inflation instead of 20%, they should make a change and vote for me.
Yeah, and listen, it's so easy when you are in Martha's Vineyard to look at the migrant crisis, to look at the open border as just an inconvenience. All right, we'll send them to the military base, get them away. But there are deadly consequences to the open border. We're going to have approximately 900 migrants die crossing into the United States. You had some drowning in rivers there recently. But there's also every 8.5 minutes, an American is dying from a fentanyl poisoning, from fentanyl that came across that border. This is a lethal crisis, and it doesn't seem like anyone on the Democratic side even wants to mention the word fentanyl. You're really doubling down and educating the Arizonans about the lethal nature of this, right?
That's right. And I see you're showing the rainbow fentanyl on the screen. You know,
Yeah.
the cartel, they're dressing this stuff up to look like candy
Mm.
to fool children, right? In the weeks before Halloween. Like that is just evil. And John, I'm glad you said poisonings. You know, a lot of people say overdoses, and maybe technically that's correct, but this is actually poison. You know, one pill can kill a child. One pill is killing Arizona teenagers. And apparently it's controversial. I said the other day on a radio program that I think Senator Mark Kelly should have to attend the funerals of these children in Arizona who have died from fentanyl and look a mother in the eye when she's lost her child to this poison and explain why exactly he couldn't bother to lift a finger to give us border security here in Arizona. 95% of the fentanyl in our country is coming through our southern border with Mexico. It's killing so many young people in America, and the Biden administration is not doing a single thing to stop it.
Yeah, and you went to the border. You did some really amazing stuff with video. You actually show people what it's like at Yuma and other places where you can walk through the holes in the wall. And you also talked about something that I don't think a lot of people outside of the border states realize. These illegal migrants, they ripping up their citizenship documentation because it makes it easier for them to stay here under the Biden rules. There's a lot of planning that goes into this illegal migration, isn't it?
That's right. And, you know, we got to the border the other day, last week at 7 a.m. In Yuma, just in time to see a group of 35 illegal aliens walk right over. It just walked right over. In that particular group, I think there were Indians, there were Peruvians, and folks from Cuba. And, you know, that happens hourly in Yuma. Yuma gets an average of 50 illegals coming over every single hour. It's about 1,000 a day. That really adds up. 50 an hour. But Martha's Vineyard freaks out if they get 50 one time.
Yeah, it's just mind-boggling to even think of. Real quickly, you have a comprehensive plan. You're put all the resources in. Can you give us a quick overview of what your plan is to close up the border?
Absolutely. I believe in the border wall. I think we need to finish it, right? The wall is a key piece of technology. Of course, it's just one piece. We need a lot more border patrol. We need to support our border patrol. They need more resources, more manpower. I'm also a tech guy. Yeah, I think we need drones. We need infrared, thermal imaging cameras. We need basically to map every inch of the border to know and see, have a bird's eye view of who's coming across. And then there's also politics, policy, right? Remain in Mexico. Those Trump administration policies worked. Nothing was perfect, but man, it was pretty darn good relative to what we have now. So let's start by re-implementing those successful policies like Remain in Mexico, and we can start driving the number of illegal crossings back towards zero.
An all-of-government approach. That's what Americans are asking for. I know all Americans' eyes are going to be on Arizona this November, seeing if you can unseat Senator Mark Kelly. Blake Masters, great honor to have you on the show today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, John. We're going to do it. Thank you.
All righty, folks. Don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we'll be joined by the very woman currently working to unseat a Democrat that has represented the U.S.-Mexico border district in the Lone Star state of Texas. We'll be right back with other candidates right after this.